everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's Down and Dirty. We've covered getting a full bucket in skid steers and loaders, but we haven't ever really talked about getting a full bucket and how to load a bucket in an excavator. So that's what we're going to cover today, because we're just out here at Rick's place hogging some material. So the first thing we need to determine is the kind of bucket that we're using. So when we've got a narrow bucket like this one, where the machine's got plenty of power to drag it through the material, it's not as critical to figure out what angle to load the bucket at, because this thing, it doesn't matter if I've got the bucket all the way vertical or if I've got the bucket all the way flat. This machine's going to be able to pull into the pile just fine. If you've got a much wider bucket where you don't have the power to drag it vertically, you are going to have to be a little more strategic. You also want to think about what you're trying to accomplish. Are we just trying to load the bucket, or are we trying to grade at the same time? So we'll cover the first thing. If we're trying to grade, it is always easier, especially as a beginner, to keep your bucket in the vertical position like this and just grade this way. That way we are only messing with our stick and our boom. We are totally taking the bucket out of play. So as you can see, I'm not going to go side to side here. I'm just going to stick in, boom up, and that bucket's going to stay where it's at until we get right about here, where you can see, hopefully, let me tap my screen, yes, we're about 3/4 of the way full right now. And this is the beautiful thing as a rookie, right there. If I just curl, look at that. I look like a professional. I have a truly huge heaped bucket. I could probably serve a very, very lucrative career, sorry, can't talk, as an excavator operator. Again, nice and vertical. We're just gonna pull in, boom, there, we're about 3/4 of the way full. All I'm gonna do is curl my bucket. Oh my Lord, put me on a pipe crew, baby. I'm ready to rock. So that is the easiest way to load a bucket, but again, that's only going to work if you've got a pretty narrow bucket, because if you could imagine we're dragging a dumpster across the ground, I'm not going to have the power, I'm going to get to there and my machine's going to run out of power to pull that bucket into the pile. Well, how do we get around that? Well, that's pretty straightforward. Instead of grading with the bucket flat, we're going to decrease the drag we are putting on the machine. We're going to angle it to where we're cutting more. This is going to take a little bit more skill, not too much. The only reason I say that is because as you come in, you might want to add a little curl to the bucket. So you can see we're starting with this angle right about here, and as we get into the pile, I'm going to curl in to where my bucket's right about here. And all we're doing is decreasing drag. Because as you can imagine, here's our bucket lip. That material is going to come in and ride up into the bucket, instead of us just pushing it flat. And so if I can just stick in, I'm gonna get to this point, I'm just gonna stick in. Look at that, my bucket is totally loaded. So if I curl, I'm just adding heaped material to it. Boom, look at that, full bucket. So again, what we're gonna do, we're gonna angle just a hair more in. So instead of being way flat vertical, we're gonna reduce that drag. We're gonna add a little bit of an edge to it. So right about there. So I'm gonna, again, boom and stick until I get right about here. I'm gonna stick in, full bucket. Look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, I am confident that a foreman is gonna hire me if I'm getting buckets that full as an amateur operator. I mean, that is some fine operating right there. So now, as you progress, instead of getting your bucket angle all right here, what's going to happen is you're going to get to a point where I'm going to start vertically because I'm grading. But then we're going to transition as we come into the pile. You're going to see I'm going to curl that bucket, and I'm booming up just a little bit, because as you notice, if I don't boom up as I curl, my teeth are going down into the ground. I want to keep a flat grade, so I've got to account for that. So as I curl, I'm booming up a little. And so what you're going to do is you're going to grade into the pile, and just as you start to get a little material loaded up right about there, we're going to transition. Now I've got the angle that we were using just a second ago. Stick in, baby. Grab that dirt. Oh my Lord, there's another full bucket. Now, the final scenario is if you've got a ditching bucket or a super wide bucket where your machine really struggles to load the bucket. And this is going to take the most skill, because you're now adding the bucket in pretty consistently during your pull. what we can do to totally reduce friction and drag is we can actually set this bucket right about here, maybe angled up just a hair just to kind of scoop the material up into it. But it's going to be a pretty shallow angle. And as we come in, we're going to air dig here so you can see what I'm doing. As we come in, we're actively using our bucket to keep that angle into the pile. And just to fully exaggerate this, we're going to leave our bucket flat as I come in. And so as you come in, you're going to keep that bucket angle flat. You're going to run it right into the pile here. And then we're going to scoop. Again, loaded buckets, baby, all the way to the back. So we're going to lay this bucket flat. We're going to ride it in. And again, this just takes time and skill to get to where you can do this consistently. And right there, I mean, if I keep pulling in, boom, there's a loaded bucket. All I got to do is curl and I'm heaping. That's all there is to it. So like everything else in this industry, this is just another one of those skills that's just going to take a little bit of time. But depending on the style of bucket you have, there's 3 separate options as to bucket angles that you can use to fill your bucket. So as always, drop questions and comments down below. I hope this has been helpful. We'll catch you guys on the next Down and Dirty.